Hello, the following presentation will be a data overview for Clark Creek Elementary School. My name is Diana Godfrey and I am a 5th grade teacher at Clark Creek. Let's start with a quick overview of the school. Clark Creek is in Ackworth, Georgia, and it is part of the Etowah Innovation Zone in Cherokee County School District. It is a Title I school and it has STEM certifications both from the state of Georgia and Advanced Ed. The mission statement of Clark Creek is, in an ever-changing society, Clark Creek STEM Academy stakeholders are committed to facilitating relevant interdisciplinary learning environments to empower students to reach their fullest potential through STEM integration that fosters innate curiosity and builds problem-solving skills. The purpose of this data overview is to highlight the academic strengths and trends found in the 2017 to 2019 data. We're going to analyze the demographic and data trends and propose how that might affect school performance in the future. Lastly, we'll identify areas of improvement where our school needs to focus more attention. Included in this overview will be school demographics, attendance data, Ccrpi scores, Georgia Milestones Scores, and an offer and analysis of strengths and weaknesses found within the data. Let's begin with student enrollment. Beginning in the 2016 to 2017 school year, Clark Creek had 1,156 students. The next year, it had 1,259 students, and in 2018-2019, it capped off at 1,302 students. So this data will fall between these 3 school years. Looking at the student profile, race and ethnicity, we can see that for the most part, the ethnicity and race of our students has remained pretty steady. Our largest subgroup is white students with 53% in 2016 to 52 and to 51% in 2018-19. Our second largest subgroup is our Hispanic population, which stayed steady at 24% for 2 years, and then in 2018 it moved to 22%. Our smaller subgroups include Black African American students with 14%, rising to 16% in 2018, and then Asian and multiracial students staying steady from 4 to 6% within the 3-year period. Clark Creek is a Title I school, which means we have a large amount of students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. In 2018 and 19, we were at 46%, and our average is around 45 to 46% within this 3-year period. Students with ELL, or limited English proficiency, in 2016 was 15%, 2017 16%, and in 2018-19 was down to 14%. Our students with disabilities percentages stays around 9%, capping off at 10% in the 2018-19 school year. Now looking at student attendance data, we can see that within, I spread this one out to 4 years just to show a little bit more of a trend, but we did have about 57% of students who missed less than 5 days of school. Which puts us about half of the students that miss more than 5 days of school. Between 6 to 15, you can see those percentages, and between more than 15 days absent. While there are smaller percentages, those two add up to about 50% or higher in each school year where we've had students miss more than 5 days of school. So that is definitely somewhere where we want to put some of our attention is into increasing student attendance. Shifting to staff demographics, the overwhelming majority of teachers at Clark Creek are white females, and the average amount of teacher experience is above 10 years experience. Then looking at Clark Creek's Ccrpi scores, and this is in comparison to Cherokee County and the state of Georgia. In 2017, Clark Creek had a score of 80%, which was a little bit 2% lower than Cherokee County's average, 78% in 2019, and then we jumped to 87% in 2019, which was 3% higher than Cherokee County's score. And that had a lot to do with earning points for our economically disadvantaged students, closing the learning gaps, for our ELL students, closing the learning gaps, and for our students with disabilities, closing the learning gaps, which gave us that big increase from 78% to 87% over the course of just one school year. Let's begin by taking a look at Georgia Milestones data for the state of Georgia. This is a state summary for the years 2016 to 2017. As you can see, the majority of students are scoring in that developing area on the Georgia state milestones, with the exception of science, and science being more students in the beginning stages. For 2017 to 2018, very similar data with the exception of science. Science did get a big push in this one. And still around that 10% of students on the distinguished learning for all subjects. And then in 2018 to 2019, a slight increase in the distinguished learning categories, 11-12% for all distinguished areas in science, social studies, math, and ELA. Now let's take a look at the Cherokee County summary for milestones from the 2016 to 2017 school year. Starting off, we can see that there is many more distinguished math students with a 17% than there were in the state average, as well as a lower percentage of students in that beginning area. Similarly, in 2017 to 2018, our distinguished percentages remained pretty steady, as well as our proficient, but we did see some gains of more students in the developing area than in the beginning for each grade level, each subject level. And as well as in 2018 to 2019, the biggest difference here is we did have more beginning students scoring beginning in the science area than before. Now let's take a look at Clark Creek's milestones data. So this is our milestones data for the 2016 to 2017 school year. So as you can see, this is broken down by beginning, developing, proficient, and distinguished learners in each of the subject areas. This is for 5th grade students. So we can see that our English learners is around 11% in English language arts, 15% in mathematics, 14% in science, and 10% in social studies. We also see our largest amount of beginning learners in science, which is pretty similar to the county and state data as well. Next, let's take a look at the 2017 to 2018 data. In this school year, we remained at the 11% distinguished learners for English language arts. Our mathematics rose to 19% distinguished, and science at 10%, and social studies at 6%. However, our beginning learner percentages did decrease from this year to the last. And lastly, let's take a look at the 2018 to 2019 milestones data. And on this one, we can see that ELA distinguished learner score stayed at the 11%, while the beginning learners did decrease to 12%. And in science, we moved to a distinguished learners of 22%, which is much higher than both county and state data. Mathematics, we had a really good turnout this year of distinguished learners with 26% and proficient learners at 39%. So very successful in math. Now let's take a look at how we compare to both Cherokee County, and the state of Georgia. So you'll find Clark Creek's in red and Cherokee County in taupe and Georgia in green. So for beginning learners, we hold the lowest amount between Cherokee County and Georgia, which is great. That is definitely what we want to see. And then as our distinguished learners, you can see that we are at 11%, which is the same as the state of Georgia and a little bit higher for Cherokee County as far as distinguished learners for English language arts. We also are at 47% proficient, which is higher than both the county and the state. Taking a look at mathematics, we can see that our distinguished learners are up to 26% of all students and proficient at 35%. So that put us at 61% of students that were scoring above that beginning or developing. So that was a great success. And it also shows that within this year, at this point, this is the 2018-19, Cherokee County had adopted its Ready Math curriculum program, and you can tell that it is working pretty successfully with 61% of our students scoring with either proficient or distinguished on the Georgia Milestones. In science, Clark Creek scored 22% distinguished and 41% proficient on the Georgia Milestones, which is a great feat, with 63% of students scoring above beginning or developing, which is higher than both Cherokee County and the state of Georgia. Finally, let's take a look at social studies curriculum. Now, we do know now that social studies has been taken out of the Georgia Milestones for this school year, but we don't know if that is going to change. So we still want to be sure to take a look at our social studies scores as well. So for Clark Creek, our social studies scores were higher than both Cherokee County and the state of Georgia for our distinguished and proficient learners. We had a pretty high amount in distinguished and proficient, leaving only 9% beginning learners in the social studies category, which is pretty great. Finally, I want to take a look at our reading level comparisons. This is our third grade reading level comparisons for 2018 and 2019. So Clark Creek students, third grade students, 50% of them were reading at or on or above reading level in 2018, and 57% of them were reading on or above reading level by 2019. That is a higher level in 2019 than Cherokee County and Georgia, but in 2018 we were lower than the county's average at 54%. Next, looking at fifth grade's reading levels on or above. In 2018, 62% of students were reading at or above grade level, and in 2019, 70% of Clark Creek students were reading at or above grade level. So you can see that that is a great gain from third to fifth grade, moving up from 50 to 62% and from 57 to 70% of students. So that is showing great trends, as well as it matches Cherokee County 70% and is higher than Georgia's average of 60% in 2019. Now let's just review some of the data that we went over in this overview. First, our student demographic summary. Race and ethnicity are pretty stable at Clark Creek, with only slight increases in the Asian and Black percentages. ELL students and Hispanic populations have decreased by 1%, but they still make up our second largest subgroup, which means we really need to focus on that as far as our curriculum. Clark Creek is a Title I school with 46% of the population being on free and reduced lunch. And our students with disabilities population is right around 10%, and Some of that population is comprised of our 3 self-contained AU classrooms, along with a SID-PID classroom. Half of the student population of Clark Creek misses more than 5 instructional days per school year, so that is something to look at. As far as a summary of the data, Clark Creek continues to trend with increasing scores in proficient and distinguished learners. There have been significant gains, meaning greater than their peers across Georgia, in distinguished learners in all areas except for English language arts. Math has seen a 12% increase in distinguished learners, science has seen an 8% increase in distinguished learners, and social studies saw the greatest gain with 13% distinguished learners. 57% of third graders are reading at or above grade level compared to the 48% in Georgia, and 70% of fifth graders are reading at or above grade level compared to the 60% in Georgia. There is a 13% gain from third to fifth grade on or above grade level with reading. So let's take a look at some of the areas of strength and weaknesses that have been identified through the data. First of all, our area of strength is that increase in our Ccrpi score. That is a great gain, especially considering we earned extra points for closing learning gaps with our ED students, our ELL students, and our students with disabilities. Math, science, and social studies all saw gains in our amount of distinguished learners, and we would like to keep those gains trending in a positive direction. However, our area of weakness that can be found through the data is that our ELA scores remain stagnant with only 11% distinguished learners. Here are some inferences based on the data. First of all, our school's STEM focus, which includes following an engineering design process and problem-based learning, are proving very successful in the areas of math and science. Our county's math adoption of the Ready curriculum back in 2015 is also proving successful based on Clark Creek's and the county's scores. In contrast, the county's adoption of the balanced literacy rigorous curriculum design seems to not be as successful in improving our ELA scores, as our ELA scores have remained stagnant even though we have started using that curriculum 2 years ago. Even though we are seeing an increase in our reading levels, which is great, our ELA scores do not seem to reflect that same increase. So what are our next steps? Our school has come up with some school improvement goals based on this data. And the first goal is to improve English language arts, our content mastery levels as measured by the Georgia Milestones from 50.1% on that school year, the 18-19, to 54.3% over 3 years. The goal represents a 1.4% or more annual increase by the 2022-2023 school year. Our second school improvement goal is also focused around writing, and it is to improve extended writing constructed response components as measured by the Georgia Milestones. Ideas, 15% achieve three or more of 4 possible points by 3% over 3 years, concluding in the 2022-2023 school year. So our improvement goal is 16%. In conclusion, how can we best meet these goals? One way I find is that we should continue to use our professional learning communities to focus on student data analysis and common formative assessments to further develop our student understanding. By using our common formative assessments and creating goals for our students while also sharing best practices, we can help one another achieve within our own classrooms. What are your thoughts about the data that was presented today? This is that time that I would love for us to share and really dive deep and understand what we can do to help push our Red Hawks.